boss griped at the idea of me slipping out of work 5 minutes early to get to an appointment on time. Said I'd need to use a sick or personal day. So I did. For background, my old boss used to be more flexible. As long as we got our tasks done, if something came up and we needed to slip out a few minutes early, they never had much of an issue. I rarely took advantage of it, but if I had to, I always made sure to make up those few minutes elsewhere. This new boss comes along and is such a micromanager and control freak. Now, we are not allowed to be even a minute late or leave a minute early. We need to actually put in for PTO, either for a half or full day, just to be able to slip out a few minutes early. I had an appointment once and offered to work through my break time just to leave a few minutes early. Boss balked at the idea. I arranged ahead of time for a whole personal day off. I booked myself a massage and went out to lunch before my appointment. Boss wasn't happy with me for taking a personal day, especially since we're currently short-staffed, but I did follow their policy. Business class upgrade if there is room. I used to work at a regional airline. The jet we used for our flight to the big city had 6 business class seats. The business class service was really good for a 2-hour flight. It included a full bar service, a hot meal, warm bread basket, followed by a trolley with dessert and signature coffee. The good old days. One of our regular travelers was a local business owner who was just a slimy businessman SB. He had a reputation for making a lot of money from some pretty shady deals over the years. We would roll our eyes when we saw him coming to the check-in counter because he would always name drop and ask for special treatment. He always used the business class check-in line even though he was usually in economy. He didn't have frequent flyer status, but he was buddies with one of the airline executives and always let us know this fact when he checked in by making sure to tell us that he was good friends with Vice President Karen. He would always ask for free upgrades, extra baggage, not charging a change fee, last-minute discounts, etc. If he didn't get what he wanted, he immediately called VP Karen, who would usually then call us and approve whatever it was he wanted. So one day SB checks in for his flight to the big city and of course name drops and asks for a free upgrade to business class because I'm friends with VP Karen and said it would be okay. He was traveling on a discounted ticket that was not eligible for upgrade even if he did have an upgrade coupon, which he didn't. I informed him that he was not eligible for any upgrade on this ticket and gave him his boarding pass and sent him on his way. Of course he flips open his cell phone and immediately calls VP Karen. Within 2 minutes the phone at the check-in desk rings and it's VP Karen authorizing me to override the policy to upgrade SB to business class with no upgrade coupon required if there is room. The flight that day wasn't that busy and only one person booked in business class, leaving 5 open seats. I was really irritated, but I begrudgingly put SB on the upgrade list anyways. He returned to the check-in counter and picked up his standby boarding card and gave me that smug told you so look, but then what VP Karen said clicked with me if there is room. The next passenger I checked in was a super nice lady, big smile, friendly, please and thank you. Oh, thank you so much for checking my bags to my connecting flight. That's so nice of you. I was taking my time and we were chatting a bit since it wasn't that busy. She was a teacher going on a trip to see her family and it was her first visit with them in over a year and was going to meet her new little nephew for the first time. She was overjoyed just to have the time off to travel. I typed in a few things into the computer to make it look like I was checking something about her connecting flights and then said, "Oh, you have been selected today to receive a free upgrade to business class." She was shocked. I've never flown business class in my life. This is so amazing. At that time we were rarely questioned if we upgraded someone without a certificate. Over the next 20 minutes I found excuses to upgrade 4 other passengers, one who worked for one of our top corporate accounts, one who was legitimately a frequent flyer, can't remember the other reasons. But by the time I went to board the flight I had to tell SB that I was sorry but business class was full and couldn't offer him an upgrade today. The teacher I upgraded profusely thanked me again when she boarded with the rest of the business class passengers. Little did she know that it really made my day also. Thank you all for the votes and awards. I'm a long-time lurker but first-time poster. This will encourage me to share more tales from the airport. I could probably write a whole book about the crazy Karens, the very good and the very bad staff, the non-rev trips. Anyone who has worked in the airline world knows it is unlike any other job. There were no repercussions to my actions. We rarely upgraded passengers randomly, so it wasn't something that caught management's attention, and they mostly trusted our judgment on these things. But, like many customer service jobs I'm sure, if you were nice to us we would go out of our way to help you. If you were not nice to us, we would apply the rules very strictly. Our boss did watch baggage like a hawk, though if you printed more bag tags than the passenger allowance without collecting the excess fee it showed on your daily report and you would be asked about it at the start of your next shift. Company doesn't allow me to have my phone, so I cost them 100k. I originally posted this as a comment to a similar story as I had totally forgot it happened until reading that. The op suggested I should share it as my own post, so here it goes. I have worked in warehouses for years. A few years back I was a contractor. Companies would hire us and bring in 20 people for a few weeks when they desperately needed help. I was a shift lead, usually the highest person on site, and needed to talk to my boss regularly throughout the day on a company phone. One warehouse had a policy where only managers could have their phone on the floor, and technically I wasn't a manager. Everyone under me was instructed to leave them in their car or a locker. However, I needed mine. One day I was talking on the phone to my boss, and one of the managers for the company we were working for saw me and demanded I hand him my phone, and I refused. He then threatened to kick me out. So I rounded up all my workers and said we are taking a break. We all go outside, and I tell my boss what happened. He comes to the site instantly and starts talking to their boss and tells him I need my phone on the floor, but since I don't have manager in my title they refuse. So my boss decided I can't do my job, so nobody under me can do theirs either. The end of the day the other company is pissed we didn't get any work done, and decides to cancel our contract, which cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars because it's written in the contract that they will have to pay to send us home before the original end date. We all still got paid, and got 2 weeks off before having to go somewhere else. Encampment commander does not know how petty cadet cadre can be. Hi everyone, I've got a malicious compliance story context. So I'm a member of the Civil Air Patrol and auxiliary part of the USAF, United States Air Force, and we do a lot of community service, search and rescue and disaster response alongside FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, aerospace education, and military customs and courtesies as we are part of USAF. Also some terms to help you all cadre cadets who volunteered to teach the students. Commander, the adult member chosen to be the person in charge of all personnel and basically is the director. 3 C means cadet followed by the rank they hold. So now that out of the way, here we go. We were having the Summer Leadership Academy, which is an encampment mandatory for achieving the rank of C2D Lieutenant Cadet, Second Lieutenant, and we advise new cadets to go after becoming members since it polishes them in what we teach them in regular meetings. In 2021, the first year after the lockdown, my wing was able to get the local Joint Army training facility for the week the encampment lasted. So I went as a flight commander. In the year 2021 they were implementing tablets for the staff to upload the form tracking the progress. They were new, so they came in a box. After the last orientation session we went to our barrack rooms and we slept. Come the next day, the first day for cadets to come went smooth. The evening during our reunion we were told of an abandoned box. I did not think anything about it since I had the tablet's serial number written that the number told was the models, and as I arrived at my bunk I saw that the box was missing. Being 11:59 p.m. and I had to be up at 6:00 a.m. I decided to go to bed. Early morning arrived and I went to where the command staff had set up their office and asked for the box. Then the encampment commander rudely said to me, "See, Second Lieutenant Pure Torque, and boy, why didn't you say anything about the box?" I stood there anxious since I'm shy, and the commander asked me my unit since I assume was going to tell my squadron commander of my mess up, which was my first. I told him, "Sir, I'm from Region State Unit Number." So here came the famous words, "Keep it on you at all times." I said, "Roger that, sir." So for the next 5 days that box came to me to the dusty field where the helicopters for our Black Hawk orientation flight landed and where we practiced drill and ceremonies. Come the last night we had uploaded all of our cadet students' evaluations and I delivered my formerly white now dusty red from the Samsung tablet box to the same commander. No words were said to me, and to this day I haven't heard a thing from my squadron commander about that day. Thanks for reading, and remember, there is always someone who loves you. Happy holidays. Get your manager here so we can talk to you about your manners. Have fun looking for a new job. So my dad had a compactor related story here. Seems fitting that I would have my own to add. My company takes safety very seriously, to the point we have safety briefings on the regular to keep us updated. Yesterday, we had a talk on compactor safety. One of our big rules is to never ever under any circumstances climb into a compactor unless it's unhooked from any power sources. Sounds like common sense, right? Well, dear reader, as you're about to learn, apparently common sense isn't that common. After getting our briefing, we get our assignments and are sent on our merry way. I go to my area, clean it and pull trash. As I'm walking to the compactor, what do I see sticking out of it but 2 trouser legs? After the shock lasting a nanosecond wore off, I start yelling, "What are you doing? You idiot. Don't go crawling around in there." I know I shouldn't have yelled, but I was so mad. Well, Mr. Idiot fell out and starts yelling at me. "Don't you go yelling at me. Where's your manager? Get them here right now." Malicious compliance mode activated. I put on my sweetest smile and say, "Of course, I'm so sorry. Let's get my manager here." Mr. Idiot smirks and is like, "Good girl." So I call my manager over and ask her to come over. Meanwhile, Mr. Idiot is smiling like the cat who got the cream. I'm fighting to keep from smiling, because my manager, Miss Heroine, takes safety as seriously as I do. I've seen her reduce full-grown men to tears over safety issues. Miss Heroin shows up and Mr. Idiot says you should train your workers to not yell. Miss Heroin turns to me. And why were you yelling at him? Because I caught him climbing into the compactor and I got scared he'd be crushed. In a nanosecond, Mr. Idiot goes from looking like contented cat to looking like a scolded dog. After a sound verbal thrashing, Miss Heroin calls Mr. Idiot's manager. Within 30 minutes, Mr. Idiot was clearing out his desk, still smelling of garbage. I refuse to cook and chilled with men. I F28 dislike cooking. Don't get me wrong, I cook for survival, but it is not something I like or enjoy. At my in-laws, both my Mill and Sil are stay-at-home partners and love to cook. Neither of their husbands lift a finger to help and they like it that way. Before marriage, I was treated as a guest, but since my marriage 6 months ago, they expect, want and demand I cook with them. First few times I went along with it but I hated it. It took 5-7 hours to make food and do dishes. So when they planned to get together last weekend and discuss the menu, I suggested ordering in. This way everyone can be more relaxed. They looked like I insulted them. I told them they can cook but to give me a list of what I should make, I will buy it. They said that's not how traditions work and if I hate it too much, I can relax with men. That's exactly what I did, much to their anger. I helped setting place and serving, but that was it. As we were eating my husband commented how good something tasted. Mill immediately went on about how I wouldn't be cooking anything for him. When he said he can cook for himself, Sil chimed in with how her husband or dad never had to cook a day in their life. How marrying lazy women like me has ruined his manhood. I looked at my husband and we both left. Mill and Sil are blasting our phones over my arrogance and calling him spineless. Even my mom is taking their side now. But guess who don't care? Want my section because I make more money. Go ahead, I will still make more than you. This all happened about 18 years ago. I was a waitress for a village inn. I worked the morning shift because it had the most business. Now this is back when smoking was still allowed in restaurants and we had a smoking section and a non-smoking section. Our seating chart was designed for this in mind and never changed even after the restaurant went full non-smoking. Now on Sunday we had your wonderful church rush that would pack the entire place for hours. So Sunday was totally non-smoking until 3 p.m. On the weekends we would have about 8 servers. This meant that smoking side had 2 while the other side had 6. So if you worked the smoking side you had 10 tables to take care of while the other servers had 4. Management knew I was good at what I did and would always put me in the biggest section on Sunday and I could take care of all 10 of the tables no problem. Now servers always talk about their tips and without fail I always made more than anyone else. This caused anger from some of the newer servers and they said it was because I always got the better section. Management came to me and told me what was going on. That's when we decided on malicious compliance. Okay, you can have my section next Sunday. I will take this small section, but since I am on the other side of the restaurant I will not be able to help you much. I then got to enjoy a less stressful Sunday, did my job like normal, turned my tables and made a ton of money. The other server was running around like crazy and not getting much done. At the end of the shift they learned that they made less than the week before because of how bad they were taking care of their tables, and the church crowd are horrible if you aren't taking care of them right. It was always great to hear the server say you can have your section back, I don't want it ever again. Now this was not a one-time thing, this happened many times over the 5 years I worked there. Every time it happened I still made more money. Every time we would get a new server complain I just smiled and said go ahead, take my section, I could use a break. We have to go to a meeting instead of a funeral, try us. First things first, I am not the one doing this malicious compliance. Second things second, this is a repost due to my original post being removed due to uncertain fallout. I have now asked around and got some certain feedback. I am a student of a public school district which was recently taken over by the state government. Early on into the school year, one of my classmates died. We weren't told how they died, but most of us think it was a suicide. The funeral for the student was scheduled on the same day a mandatory meeting for teachers in the district was scheduled. My teachers got into a week-long argument with the district about whether or not they can go to the funeral. The district said this: you have to show up at the meeting. Cue malicious compliance. The teachers that were going to the funeral, I counted 8 but I'm probably wrong, showed up at the meeting. My teachers said that they took one step inside, then walked back to our cars. When at the funeral, I counted 8 teachers and several consultants. Consultants didn't have to go to the meeting, and now the aftermath. Good news, my teachers haven't been fired, but there is some bad news. The district is cracking down on teachers speaking out against the district. Edit: this comes from the sayings of teachers from both my school and other schools. Please take it with a grain of salt. When it comes to the family of the kid, I don't know what happened. Info about the takeover. I know someone's gonna ask about this, so here is the info I have gathered on the takeover. Earlier in 2023 the Texas Education Agency took over the Houston Independent School District. Why did they take over? One or two sources are conflicting on the number schools were failing. Due to a 2015 Texas law, the T now had the ability to take it over. To be fair, The schools that were failing would have been forced to shut down if the T didn't take over, so it was a bad situation either way. Won't pay out my PTO? Well, can I take PTO and work? At my last job I'd given them notice, and I had assumed they'd cut me a check for the 55 hours of PTO I had left over, but no, they said I would lose it if I don't use it. So I went ahead and used my PTO for the last 55 hours I was scheduled to work because I wasn't about to waste that. But then I remembered a time a few weeks back. I had taken PTO, but then I had worked about 30 minutes into my PTO. I ended up earning time and half, as with my PTO 30 minutes of extra work. I enjoyed my co-workers. I sent an email to my manager, "Hey Mark, I know we are a bit understaffed and I know I took PTO already, but I wouldn't mind working anyway. Is that okay to work?" Mark responds, "Yes, we'd be happy to have you." My hourly rate was $25 at that point. Time and half puts me at $37.50, which I was fine with earning. So come my second hour of Thursday I will be earning time and half. So I worked, had fun. Come Monday after my last day my old boss calls me and says, "Did you work 135 hours last pay period?" No, I worked 80 hours, and I used 55 hours of PTO cause. "Like your overtime pay put us over budget." I said yay. That did say I was good to work despite the fact I had scheduled PTO, right? "Hey mom, I did." "Yay. Thanks." He starts laughing. "Yes, I got paid. Company now pays out PTO when you quit cause of me." In the end they paid me $2,062 in overtime pay plus the 80 hours I worked turned me $2,000. So typically 80 hours of work would cost them $2,000. But because they wouldn't pay me out my PTO they ended up paying double, when they could have just cut me a check for $1,375 and saved $700. Essentially in their effort to rip me off my benefit, I made them pay $700 for their greed. I made sure to get permission to come to work, despite the fact that I had already scheduled my PTO. FYI, previously in another interaction I was told once PTO can't be cancelled. Edit: in my state not paying out for PTO is perfectly legal and fine. In my company PTO is treated in terms of pay the same as hours worked. So in a bi-weekly pay period I'm scheduled to work 80 hours 40 hours per week. I noticed if overtime pay went above 40 hours I still got paid time and a half. So here's the math. I was supposed to work 80 hours. I had 55 hours of PTO to use. So I took all of that, which mean I was going work 25 hours, and take off 55 hours. Now instead of taking those 55 hours, I worked them, but I was still using PTO. So I got my $25 for my 80 hours. And then I got $37.50 per hour for my 55 hours. This resulted in a gross pay of $4,062 had the company simply wrote me a check for my PTO that would have been $1,375, plus my 80 hours would have been $2,000 for a total of $3. The company basically paid me $700 more than they could have because they were trying to be greedy. Yell at me in front of a customer? Fine. Everyone gets 18 ounces of free coffee. This was a while ago and I have since quit this job. I used to work at a diner on the weekends. To-go coffees are served in styrofoam cups and only come in one size, 12 ounces. A trucker came in for breakfast and he asked for a big coffee to go. Again, they only come in one size. So I sold him a 12 ounces coffee and gave him his cup. Usually we leave space in case people want to add cream, but I filled his up all the way. Then my manager pulls me aside in front of him and reprimands me for not giving him a big coffee like he asked for. All while he's nodding and smiling. When I asked her what she would like me to do because we only have coffee cups in one size, she tells me I should have known that I was supposed to use a styrofoam soft drink cup instead. Those cups are 30 ounces. In my entire time working there, we have never done that. There is no option in the register to charge someone for a 30 ounces coffee, but the customer was upset. So she made up a non-existent rule on the spot and belittled me to make him happy. She threw me under the bus. You'd be surprised how many customers ask for big, large, jumbo, huge, enough to fill a 10-gallon coffees every day. It's usually a joke followed by some comment about them being tired. They aren't really asking about coffee cup size. They're just trying to make conversation and use silly words. So for the next several months I proceeded to give every single person who made a comment about coffee size a 30 ounces coffee and charge them for a 12 ounces. That coffee maker was constantly going. I mean constantly. We were going through bags of coffee like crazy. Almost as if we were selling nearly 3 times as much without making more profit from it. Edit: clarification that the soda cup is also styrofoam. I do not punish the innocent with hot drinks in wax-coated paper cups.